Welcome back, guys. So I figured we'd do a tour of the plants, both house plants and orchids. It's about the middle of April, springtime. Let's see what kind of growth we have, if any, and then we'll check it again in a month, kind of see what's going on. So we're going to start off with our Syngonium Glo Go, and she has really filled out. I am turning her about every other day just to kind of make her even. As you can kind of see back here, she's kind of got like a little blank spot right here that needs to be filled in, but that's okay. And then we have our, I always forget what these things are called. Let's see. The Graptosedums. Sorry about that. So this one on the right, on the left, the more reddish one is the California Sunset, and then the other one is just a NOID. And then we still have our little, they're still alive, so that means I'm not overwatering and giving too much for them to get all soggy. Of course, it'll be a while before they produce anything. Over here, we have our Echeveria. So this one here is the Echeveria Lola. She's a hybrid. And then this one is just an Echeveria NOID. This is our Vanda. Oops, let me turn the tag around there. This is our Vanda Pearl Cooper, which is a Ficus Sunrise crossed with Ficus Gold that I got from Brookside Orchids. And if we really get in nice and close, she has a new leaf coming out. Finally, something going on with her. So I did take her out of the pot I originally had her in and put her in this orchid top pot from Repot Me. And she seems to be liking it. That's when she started growing that root. I'm sorry, that leaf. Here we have my Pilea Peperomia, and she is gorgeous. Look how big she's getting. I'll post the video that I did on her when I potted her into this pot so you can kind of see her growth. And then down here we have our baby jades that are doing really well. And here we have a Tradescantia that I bought about a week ago, and it was soaking wet, and the soil is still wet. But it is enjoying this east-facing window. So I did close the shade a little bit so it's not so glary, but this is my Pothos. I want to say it's the Jade Pothos. It might just be the standard golden Pothos, but I got a clipping of this from work. I had 3 leaves on it about 3 months ago, and as you can see, she is just growing like a weed, and that is why they call it the house weed, because once it really gets settled in and starts taking off, well, you see what it can do. Over here, we have a Nepenthes that, I don't know, I don't think it likes my home. I don't think I have enough humidity in the living room, and I'm not willing to raise the humidity too much because it does produce the cups, but then the cups dry out even though I spray it every day. Then we have our, I call it the string of bananas, not sure, but if you look up here, it has got a pot full right there, and it is extending out. I do untwine them just because I want it to hang a little bit lower. And then here we have what is sold to me as a silver pothos, but I'm thinking it might be something else. Again, now that she's kind of settled in and established herself, she is really taking over this pot. Just lots and lots of new strings and vines and growth going on there. She's just really, really loving life in there. I'm thinking of spray painting these pots white. I don't like them, along with the other ones that we just saw. So let's go down to the bench. So this is my orange star. They call it the Star of Bethlehem just because of the way that the blooms are shaped. If you kind of look, let's see if we can find one that looks more like a star. It's kind of hard to tell. Well, there's one right there, just a little bit, not much, but they do produce these long spikes, and then they kind of bud like this, and then each one of these little buds will open up and have a cluster of flowers. They bloom from spring to summer, and then they go dormant, so you do want to keep them moist but not wet. And then once they spend all their leaves, and their flowers and their leaves start drying out, you want to kind of let them take a winter rest. Here we have another Brookside Orchid. This is our Catatante Orange Kiss, and look what we have. We have a pretty new growth that is just growing fabulous, and her bulbs are starting to fatten back up. And then here we have our Paphiopedilum Mele, and I recently did a video on her, so if you want to check that out, I'll post that also. And then here we have a Bromeliad that I got for 75 cents. So, and the thing with these, this is the kind that as long as you keep water in the well, they'll be fine. You do want to water the soil occasionally. I've only had her for about a month, so I haven't watered the soil other than when I initially put her in there, just kind of settle in the dirt. And then look at this pot. Is she not the cutest little pot? Oh my goodness. Anyway, back to the flowers and orchids and goodies. This is another store-bought NOID Phalaenopsis. Look at the leaves on her. And she has opened all of her blooms now. So what I like about her is she's a little different than my other yellow phal that I have. This one has a yellow lip. Let's just zoom in on it a little bit so you can kind of see. See that yellow lip with that deep, almost brownish red throat? That is just gorgeous. The other one has a magenta lip, so that kind of makes them different on that stance. Other than that, the flowers themselves are very, very similar. And then on our little stand down here, I've got some little succulents back there. I don't know what kind they are, but they're kind of cute, and they're actually liking this being a little bit closer to the window. Here I have my Syngonium, which this newest growth is really big and tall. She is getting a little red, so I'm wondering if I have too much light on her. If you have the Syngonium, let me know if I'm giving her too much light and if I need to pull it back a little bit. Then we have our Sherry Baby, who has this growth, the one you see there. And then let's see if we can get in on that little bitty growth right down there. So she's got 3 growths coming. So that means she's settled in pretty good. And let me see if I can get her out of the pot, the decorative pot, just so I can kind of show you. She is starting to produce her roots. It's pretty good there, see? And with them being down at the bottom means there's plenty of them in there, so that's good. Hopefully one of those 3 will decide to bloom for me. Only a waiting game. All right, and then over here, I've moved the Ficus Elastica Burgundy into this little corner, and I rotate her about once a week just to make sure that she doesn't get too heavy on one side or the other, but she's doing fine. And now that she's in that larger pot, I've only watered her once since repotting her about a month ago. And I'm going to let the soil completely dry out before I water her, just because I don't want those roots that she does have to rot. Then, of course, we have our Tradescantia. Oh my goodness, what is this? I'll put the description below because I always forget. But look at the blooms. They're starting to open in clusters instead of just one at a time. When it first started opening, I thought, oh great, get one flower at a time out of that cluster, but it's starting to keep its flowers. This here is sold to me as a Peperomia type. I'm not sure what type, but it is putting on a lot of new growth. And another Brookside orchid. This is our Princess Scary, well, Princess Penois Scary. She's a Wilhelmina. And if you can see, do you see that brown root thing? Let me see if I can get a little bit closer here. That is a new growth, guys. That is a new growth. I did not realize that she had that, and I almost broke it off because I thought that that was a piece of bark that was stuck in there. So I almost ruined my new growth. Then this is Peachy. I'll post a picture of her blooms, but she's resting now and then working on producing a new leaf. Then this is a cutting off of the Tradescantia that is still wet from a month ago that I am attempting to propagate. So this is one piece, and there's about that much of a stem in there, hoping with a lot of nodes on it, hoping they'll catch. And then this piece right here just kind of broke off, so I was like, stick it in there, see what happens. This here is another NOID Phalaenopsis that I call Velvet just because of her blooms. And let me get one of them open here so you can kind of see. But do you see how velvety she is? And just, I love that it's all just kind of one color with just that splotch of white there. This one here, I recently repotted and did a video on as far as can you repot orchids while they're in bloom. And as you can see, the buds are still opening up. I haven't lost any. I do have one where she blasted right here, but it was one of the smaller ones and I was expecting that. Here we have our Zygo or Zygo Hybrid that is starting to open up her new growth here. And her new growth down here is really coming out, as you can see right here. And then let's just take her out of the pot so I can kind of show you her roots. I have her in moss and perlite. And see if I can do this without dropping her, because that would be massively disappointing. But you can see some down there, and then she's got them right there. So she's got roots all over the place, which is awesome and amazing, which means she is definitely happy in this setup. So I'm just going to keep her in there. Down here, we have an Oncidium Hybrid. She's a NOID, but when she blooms, she has one of the Wildcat look to it, like the bobcat. If you want to know what that looks like, just Google it and you'll see it online. But this right here is the only growth out of all her new growths that is continuing to develop. It probably won't bloom, but that's okay, because now that she's in fresh media, she should go ahead and work her way out. And then we have a Peperomia here. I believe this is the Peperomia Silver, not absolutely certain, but that's what I'm naming her. If anybody knows a positive ID on this one, let me know. I recently split her up because she was taking over the pot. So I now have 3 of these, and that's kind of why she looks a little wanky. She's kind of recovering from that repot. Here we have a Dieffenbachia, which ever since I moved her over here, like I said before, closer to the window, closer to the light, I'm getting a lot more variegation in the newer growth. And then down here, my Bromeliad pups from an old Bromeliad I had are doing rather well. I still make sure that I keep water in the wells, and then if she blooms, fingers crossed, if she blooms, they'll be red. Of course, they're probably months off of blooming, if not years, but who knows. Oh, and down here is one of my Cyclamen that is going into dormancy and will come back out. I'll start watering her again probably in August. So let's go over here, and I'm going to look at 2 more things real quick. So this is my Phalaenopsis, well, one of my Phalaenopsis soft clouds. She's working on a new leaf, and if you look really close right there, let's see, let me turn it, you can see she is working on another spike. And then she's got lots of aerial roots and lots of roots in the media. So this here is the mama plant, and then this is the keiki. Both of my soft clouds that I got came with terminal spikes, and they produce keikis. That's where I got a lot of the keikis that I've been using for remount experiences, just different experiments I've been doing. But she is doing really well, nice shiny leaves there. This here is the Phalaenopsis Sogoyukidon, and she came in a poor state, but she's recovering really well. Her leaves aren't dropping, she's not yellowing, she's not rejecting the repot that we did. Here we have a Phalaenopsis speciosa red, and she is finishing off this leaf here, and I didn't see any new growth, but she is finishing that off, and that looks absolutely gorgeous. And then up here we have our Phalaenopsis. I call her pomegranate because the flower looks like a pomegranate, and she is working on this spike, but guys, she's been working on this spike since I got her, and I've had her for a couple of months now, so I'm not sure what's going on with that. But she's also working on that leaf right there, so I don't know if maybe she's just taking turns on putting her energy into one and then switching it over to the other. Not sure about that. But that is it for today. We will look at the shelving on the next video. And until then, everyone have a great and safe week. We will just leave you with this.